welcome back to another story of Pop Stories by Fred Dietz. This is another original. This is the second story from Uncle Ronnie's stories, the Bigfoot and Sasquatch Chronicles. This one's entitled Second Round Better Than the First. As we sat around another campfire, someone asked Uncle Ronnie if he'd seen any more BFTV. Without missing a beat, he nodded his head as he finished his last bite of his hamburger. Remember that storm last night? Remember how the wind howled and the rain flooded nearly everything east of the stream? I looked around at all of us. Everyone started to nod their heads in agreement. Well, it made me look for BFTV or STV. I sat there with the antenna while changing the channels. I kept at it for what seemed like forever. Nothing. I sighed and put them down. I walked down the creaking steps, trying not to wake up your Aunt Priscilla. I walked outside to listen to the rain on the metal roof of the porch. I stood there for several minutes. The wind started pushing the rain sideways at one point. I would give it another try. He paused as he put a marshmallow on a stick for one of the little ones sitting next to him. Carefully, I walked back up the steps, past Aunt Priscilla and into the den. I turned on the television. I adjusted the antenna to where I remember finding BFTV the last time. Bingo! There it was, BFTV. He looked around. He nodded his head. I can tell you I was afraid to move. I didn't want anything to lose that picture. Ever so slightly, I eased into my old recliner and started watching the show. Believe it or not, they were holding the Bigfoot and Sasquatch Football League opening game. He paused just long enough to catch a look on all the faces. Yep, it was the BFSFL. Now, I had always liked playing sports and watching sports, but this, I figured this would be different. He looked around the fire, and was I ever right? He stopped to take a drink. After blowing out the fire on a marshmallow, he took it off for another little one. He started back up. When the starting lineup ran onto the field, my eyes started to bulge. Everyone, here he emphasized the word everyone, by going slow and pointing at everyone. Every one of the players were huge. They all looked to be over 7 feet tall and looked to weigh over 400 pounds. He let that sink in for a moment. Their uniforms were blue and green. Then the Sasquatch team ran onto the field. They were just as big, if not bigger. Their uniforms were mustard yellow and ketchup red. There was no way to mix up these two teams. There it was, the kickoff. Stood up. As I watched that ball sail, I realized the field was bigger. It seemed to be twice as long as ours, yet the kick still went to the goal line. I watched the returner catch the ball. He did an imitation catching the ball. And just like that, he was gone. Up the far sideline to the 20, the 30, the 40, and wham! You could hear that hit. Uncle Ronnie shook his head. I guarantee you, he had to feel that one. He stretched. He sat back down. The Bigfoot offense came onto the field. First play, a bomb. That quarterback must have thrown it over 60 yards. The receiver caught it right in stride. Touchdown! Uncle Ronnie jumped. It was a terrific throw, right on the money. Extra point was up and good. Something, nothing, just like that. The cameras got to the cheerleaders. Again. He paused. It was different. He cleared his throat. The Sasquatch quarterback came onto the field. He dropped back to the goal line and threw the ball the length of the entire field. Uncle Ronnie emphasized, threw the ball the length of the entire field. Perfect throw. Touchdown. Uncle Ronnie just shook his head. The camera cut to the other quarterback. He nodded his head up and down. He looked at the camera and went, game on. Uncle Ronnie held his hands up. The Bigfoot team got the ball back. The quarterback dropped back. Back, 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 all the way to the 1 foot from the end line. He let the rock go. The entire length of the field. The fans were going nuts. I was going nuts. It was the greatest throw I've ever seen. Back and forth it went. It was as if the defense did not even try after a while. I think I even saw one play where the linemen held up their hands as if to say, why bother? Uncle Ronnie stopped to wipe his brow before going again. Halftime. Now, unless it's some big thing already advertised, I usually am headed to the kitchen for a snack. Not this time. Uncle Ronnie said, this time I wanted to see what it would be like. Again, it was different. The cheerleaders played football against each other. He paused to look around the campfire. And I think some of them were tougher than the regular players. He looked around at the fire at several of his nieces. I know all of you would be out there. He just grinned at them. The cheerleaders game was a lot like the regular game. You had lots of offensive fireworks with the defense pretty much sitting on the ground. One defender intercepted the ball. The receiver lifted her up, spun her around and around and around until the ball came out and ran the fumble in for a touchdown. Boom! All I could do was smile and think about what everyone else was missing. Halftime was over. The Sasquatch team had the ball first. At the snap, the entire Bigfoot defense dropped back into coverage. Everyone was falling back. The Sasquatch quarterback took the helmet off and started to laugh. He looked down the field and threw a screen. That running back and those linemen ran over everyone. Here, Uncle Ronnie made a motion as he was parting a crowd around one of Aunt Priscilla's pies. Of course, it was another touchdown. Uncle Ronnie just laughed. The game went on and on. The defense tried to put everyone at the goal line. They tried to put everyone guarding the receivers. No matter what they tried, it did not work. Uncle Ronnie grew more animated. Finally, the game was over. It was a tie at 140 to 140. That's when the real game began. Each quarterback walked to the middle of the field. They played 3 against 5. 3 offensive players against 5 defensive players. Guess who won? He asked everyone at the campfire. Immediately, the little kids all said the defense. After all, it was 5 against 3. They should always win, they argued. The oldest kids all said the offense. They pointed out how well the quarterbacks had been doing. The other adults had been pulled into the story, were looking sideways, trying to figure out the whole thing. Uncle Ronnie let the discussion go back and forth for a while before he let us know the outcome. No matter how the defense tried, it could not stop either quarterback. One play, the Bigfoot quarterback carried 4 of the 5 defenders. The 5th defender was on the ground. On another play, the Sasquatch quarterback threw the ball off of one defender's head, caught it, tossed it back to the receiver, and knocked down 3 defenders with a block. Well, everyone around the campfire just stared in disbelief. It came down to a second overtime. This time, it was quarterback against quarterback. They picked one fan from each side to be the receiver. They just walked into the crowd and picked someone to be the receiver. Pause for a moment. I always said anyone who went to a game would love to get down on the field. Well, there it was. That's what they were doing. No more pads, no other players. Just a quarterback and a fan. The fans guarded each other. Back and forth it went. On the 5th try, the Sasquatch quarterback threw another long bomb. This time it was intercepted. Game over. The Bigfoot cheerleaders carried him off the field. A whole campfire crowd sighed. Immediately, several around the campfire were upset because the team they had been rooting for had lost. All Uncle Ronnie said after that was, "I want the video game. BSFL 2020. Now I see you."